This is the Practical Homeopathy Podcast, episode number 147 with Joette Calabrese.
Hi, I'm Joette Calabrese, and I welcome you to our healthcare movement, yours, mine, and the countless men and women across the globe who have retaken control of their family's health with practical homeopathy. So, for the next few minutes, let's link our arms as I demystify homeopathy, what was once considered an esoteric paradigm, into an understandable, reproducible, safe, and effective healthcare solution available to all. This is the medicine you've been searching for, my unique brand of homeopathy, practical homeopathy.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Kate, and I'm here with Joette today. Hi, Joette.
Hi, Kate. How are you?
Good. I'm excited because we are going to be talking about summer remedies to have on hand for things that you do in the summertime, like go to the beach, go camping. And so we're going to give the listeners today some important remedies that they might need for things that occur during being out in the sun or getting bug bites. So let's get started.
Let's.
So I thought we would start with, Joette, the remedies that you would have on hand for all emergencies. And there are many, probably, right? Because I always talk about how I bring too many remedies when I go anywhere. But some of the top remedies you would say to have on hand for any emergency, no matter the season, are what?
So let me first say that I don't think you can have too many remedies with you when you're on a vacation or a trip or a weekend or a picnic. I always say she who has the most remedies in the end wins.
Right. And I always say we buy remedies instead of shoes.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, because they last forever. You never wear out a remedy. Can wear out shoes. So yeah, this is a great topic because it's, of course, timely. Summer's coming up and we want to know what remedies to have on hand before an accident occurs, before a bug bite, before a sunburn, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really one of the main aspects of learning homeopathy is being prepared, right? As a mom, as a grandmother, as a scout leader, as a teacher, you want always to be prepared. So, of course, it's important to have as many remedies as you feel comfortable carrying around and carrying with you, given the season and given the possibilities. Now that we're talking about summer, then we can also add the summer conditions, such as burns, sunburn, or even a burn from touching a hot coal at the grill at the picnic site. So we want to be prepared for all of those eventualities as well.
So I'm going to mention a few, Joette, and then maybe you could talk about why you would bring that remedy with you. So let's start with apis.
Well, apis is called Apis mellifica. It's specifically made from a honeybee, meaning homeopathically it's derived from a honeybee. And so hence it's great for bee stings. It doesn't have to be a honeybee. It could be a wasp, it could be a hornet, could be anything like that. But really what's most important is that it shows the way we know to use it is that it presents as hot and swollen and maybe even water-filled, kind of edematous. So it's a great remedy for extreme pain, burning pain, just like an insect bite would be painful, a stinging, burning pain. And it swells up and it can be hot to the touch, or a person is experiencing the area as hot. It can be a great medicine for any of those kinds of bites that are not these are not itchy bites. These are painful bites. Stings is really a better way to put it.
And bonus is that apis is a great remedy also for an allergic reaction to something. So
hives. It can be used for hives. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So let's say you've gone to a picnic. It's a big family picnic, and you didn't realize that your child was allergic or would respond to red dye. And Aunt Martha brings a cake with red dye in it, and your child has some, and your child ends up with hives. Apis can be useful for that as well.
And I know, Joette, you mentioned using Ledum as well for bee stings. So that's another option to have. And there's a couple of uses that I can think of and reasons why you would want to have Ledum as well. Can you talk about that?
First of all, let me say that I like to use Ledum in a 200 potency, but if all you've got is a 30, you use what you've got. But 200 seems to be the most valuable for when there is any kind of puncture and a puncture wound. Now, an insect does make a puncture wound. Essentially, it's injecting its stinger into your skin. So it is a puncture wound of sorts. But also, if someone were to step on a rusty nail at the picnic, or they were to get a sliver stuck in their finger from climbing a tree, Ledum is one of our best medicines for any time that there is a wound that is more like a puncture than anything else. And it can relieve not only the potential for an infection, if used properly, in conjunction with other medicines as well, but it also will help keep any poisons that might be associated with it at bay.
And also those nasty tick bites, right?
Oh, yes. That's probably what you were getting at, those tick bites.
Yes, those tick bites.
Yeah. Those tick bites. People are very afraid of tick bites. I don't think we need to be as afraid as the media has led us to believe, because we have our medicines, because we know what to do. So if someone gets a tick bite, you take off the tick, save the tick, my friends, save it, put it in alcohol when you get home, label it, what day it was, etc. But meanwhile, you're going to be using Ledum Pilastra 200C 4 times that day, or even more frequently than that, and then for several days after that as well.
We were talking a bit earlier when we spoke about apis, about a burning pain, and there's another remedy that if, say, you're going to the ocean and you might encounter a sting there, Urtica urens, that might be useful for if you're at the beach by the ocean or some other types of stinging pain, right?
Yes, from stepping on Portuguese man-o-war. Urtica urens can often be the medicine. So can apis. You have to kind of differentiate between the two of them, but you want to own both. And Urtica urens also presents in hives, in urticaria called. That's why the remedy is called Urtica urens. It's for hives as well as apis, both of those. They're very closely related remedies, interestingly. And so that is a great medicine for hives, regardless of what the cause is. Both of them, regardless of the cause. We don't necessarily need to know what the cause is. It's how it's presenting that gives us the clue as to which medicine to use.
I like how you distinguished one time, Joette, when you were speaking about apis versus urtica, that apis is more in the upper part of the body, the face and the swelling around the neck and the head, and urtica was usually lower. Am I on the right track there?
I think you are, but let's put it this way. Apis will present more in an allergic reaction where the lips, the eyes, under the eyes, the mouth, the tongue, the uvula, the throat might swell. When you say it's at the upper part of the body, you're meaning, yes, around the head, the face, the mouth, inside the mouth. When we see those kinds of reactions, those kind of allergic reactions, we automatically think of apis. Now, Urtica urens could also potentially be used for that, but we think of apis first. Now, Urtica urens is when we see hives where it's not around the mouth, the nose, the eyes, the throat, the tongue. It doesn't mean it can't ever be useful, but we always think of apis first when we think of any anaphylaxis.
Oh, I thought of another one for Urtica urens, jellyfish stings, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yes. Yes. Very good for jellyfish stings.
Okay, let's move on to heat and burns. And one of the remedies that we want to speak about now is cantharis.
Yeah, cantharis is one of our great medicines for the burning and pain of urinary tract infections, but that's not what we're talking about here. But I want to make that association so that you can imagine that kind of stinging, burning pain during a urinary tract infection can be presented in another way. If someone picks up a hot stick at the fire pit and they burn their hand, it's burning, stinging, it's cantharis. We do want to think about that. But I also love cantharis for sunburn. It can be one of our best medicines for sunburn. In fact, I've got a towel in my guest room, bathroom, that has cantharis written on it. And then the remedy is right there on the counter so that when my guests come in from out of town and they get burned in the sun, they're in that bathroom. That's their towel. It's the cantharis towel. And there's the remedy should they have gotten a sunburn that day.
That's a really sneaky way to teach people remedies, Joette.
Yes, it is.
All right. What about if you get overheated and too hot during the summer? What would you use?
Well, one of our best medicines for being overheated, there are 2 good ones. The first one I think of is glenoinum, kind of a fun word to say. Glenoinum is really great for heat stroke, heat exhaustion, just feeling overheated. And you may not even recognize that it's from the heat that you're feeling so uncomfortable and weakened by. And then I also like China, just the way it sounds, China. China is for when they're overheated that is related to dehydration because they usually go hand in hand. And of course, we want water with electrolytes or water with salt in it while the person is also taking the homeopathics. You want to be smart and use those kinds of measures as well.
And bioplasma, which is a combination of all 12 cell salts, can be useful for that as well.
Well, what I love about bioplasma, that's made by Highlands. You can put that in the water with the electrolytes and salt. And I also, if you happen to have it around some yogurt whey, the liquid from yogurt, that helps the gut absorb the nutrients from the electrolytes more readily. So that's not a bad thing to add in there as well. I actually have something about a drink like that on my blog that I posted years ago.
Right. And we'll link to it from the notes from this podcast. So if you're listening to this podcast, just go to joettecalabrese.com and click on podcasts, and the transcripts from this podcast will be there, and you can read and click right there on the links. A couple other things I want to get to really quick before we end the podcast is if you go out, Joette, into the woods and you might encounter some itchy plants or plants that would make you itch. So what might be some good remedies for that?
Well, most people think automatically of roost tox, but I also think antimonium crude can be very, very useful, and so can anacardium. So we're not giving very specific information here as to what potency, what frequency, how often to use it. This is really just to kind of give you an overview of these are the medicines you want to consider having on hand for these kinds of conditions.
Mm-hmm. So look them up in your Materia Medica and read about them, and that will help you determine in what situation you might use that remedy. And again, all these remedies names will be spelled out in the podcast notes. I think, Joette, let's end with something that you could apply topically as well as take internally if you want. But there's a good soothing remedy that you can use after sunburns or anything that might have a little scratch from the woods or something like that. What would that be?
Well, there are a number of them, but one of the most common and one of my favorites is calendula. And you can get that in ointments and creams, or you can just purchase it as a homeopathic in its pill form and actually make it a little paste out of it in a little bit of water and rub it on the area. It can be very soothing and very comforting, and also protects against the potential of infection.
Thanks, Joette. This is just a quick overview of some of the remedies you want to have on hand for those summertime activities. But I wanted to mention that we do have a whole section or a lesson in the Gateway to Practical Homeopathy 2 study guide on emergencies. So if you want to learn more, that's a great place to go and find out more about the remedies that you might want to have on hand, in addition to the ones that we mentioned today. Joette, thank you so much for the information.
Thank you so much, Kate. This is great.
It's my honor to share many lessons on this simple method of using homeopathy for free, without affiliates or advertising, here in my podcasts, but also my blog posts and Monday Night Lives. But it's critical that you learn how to use these medicines properly. These podcasts should serve as only the beginning of your training. Peruse joetteslearningcenter.com to find fun study group opportunities and in-depth courses developed by subject. So with the proper training, you can join the thousands of students before you in developing the confidence and competence to protect the health of your family and loved ones with my brand of homeopathy, Practical Homeopathy.
You just listened to a podcast from internationally acclaimed homeopath, public speaker, and author, the founder of the Academy of Practical Homeopathy, Joette Calabrese. Joette's podcasts are available on all your favorite podcast apps. To learn more and find out if homeopathy is a good fit for your health strategy, visit practicalhomeopathy.com.